This is the easiest, best, and least complicated beginner build for Mighty Doom, and even experts can use it because it scales up so well as you grow. As you see here, I'm using it with epic and rare gear, but you can use it with whatever. Now you're using the heavy cannon as your gun for the start, but why this? It is efficient, powerful, and simple to use. There's no fancy thing about it. You just get your spread shot, your side shot, all your upgrades, you know what you're doing. It's accurate, long distance, or it's decent close up too. It's literally great at almost everything you want it to do. But why not other weapons? Now the shotgun is a Doom classic and it's really good too. However, you have to be up close and personal with the enemies, and if you don't understand spacing, positioning, movement as a beginner, you need to know how to get in and get out with the shotgun, understand its range, how the pellets blast out. It's a little more finesse to make a shotgun work. So if you're a true blue beginner, a heavy cannon's better than a shotgun if you're not that comfortable with the game just yet. Now keep in mind, this guide goes for even rarities. If you have an uncommon shotgun and a common heavy cannon, use that shotgun because more rare weapons and armor start off with higher stats and they get more and better stats as they go. Now if it's even, go with the heavy cannon. Plasma would be a second competitor. It's a little bit slower on the shot despite the nice damage that it does, so really it's okay either way. It does have an enemy attack debuff, so that's nice too. When it comes down to it, if you have better plasma tokens for upgrades than the heavy cannon, use that. But if you can't use the heavy cannon, try it. Or if it's personal preference, either way, these guns are pretty close to each other because this plasma can still get a ton of shots firing around the field and has its own little perks as well, like the heat blast and such, so it can still be a good choice for you. The chain gun does require a little more finesse despite its long range. It's a little more inaccurate in long range till you get the steadfast upgrade, so you can get up in their face for better accuracy. And to quote the old meme, the longer the chain gun is firing in the game, the faster it becomes. So being able to keep that chain gun fire continuous so it speeds up more and more and faster, that is something in itself. Switching off to your secondary, knowing that, will actually stop and reset your fire rate and have to do all that again. So it's a little more complicated to use and get all the nitty-gritty, the details down. Even though it's still not too bad, honestly. Although there are some nice things about it. It can really shred enemies to pieces when you get at high level too, but it's still just a little more than a heavy cannon. The burst rifle. I tried this thing out. It has a 3 blast burst, and it's better when you're standing still and you can't arc those bursts or anything in any way. Not that you can arc a heavy cannon, but once you're shooting there for your 3 bursts. And all through, this is probably the worst of the weapon choices. Some people like it at higher level. I've seen in Discord. Some people, a lot of us, don't. I'd like to see it work. I'm not going to say it sucks completely forever. Maybe we just have to find a way to make it work. Either way, heavy cannon is still king here. Okay, so when it comes to your secondaries, the Gauss cannon is a clear winner for low and high players alike. It is so amazing because the damage is through the roof in your single shot, and not to mention when you get bounce, magnetic acceleration, when you get all these upgrades, lead poisoning, multi-shot, you're shooting all around the room like a miniature BFG, and it's literally just so easy to use, the basics, and it's still amazing for higher level players as well. You just cannot literally go wrong with the Gauss when you're learning the game or when you're an expert either. The rocket launcher is pretty good too. It's got a little bit of a less room clearing feel, but you can run into a pack of enemies and just blow them all up. Insane damage, seriously. Like, I'm using an epic rocket launcher right now because I can get it to just about maxed, versus a rare Gauss which is capped at 60. But all things considered, level playing field, I would definitely use the Gauss. But the rocket launcher is not a bad second place here against that Gauss. If you have it and it's really good and like it's a better rarity, use it. If you don't, back to the Gauss. Now, Super Shotgun also is probably an S tier weapon. It's just got so much power. With the meat hook, you can go to an enemy. You can position yourself around the field differently. You can stun lock bosses to stop the mid animation with their attacks. You can do so many cool things with this and power in the battlefield, and that's why it's a little more advanced than, say, the Gauss cannon. You have to get up close and personal with it most of the time, and you really just have to be careful with this thing despite its power. If you have one, great, use it, but keep in mind the Gauss is probably a little more simple, plug and play, than what a Super Shotgun's true capabilities really are. And even between the two, I'd still go Gauss. So the Ballista, it's like the Gauss's little brother that just can't do everything it can. I mean, I'm sorry, I know there are Ballista users out there. I wish I could like it. I've tried it, it's decent. If you have a good one, you can try it, but it just doesn't have the strength and power and room clearing capabilities, say that 10 times fast, that the Gauss does. It's so weak without upgrades. You're better off using your primary until you get Destroyer Blade, Arbalest, Outburst, more Destroyer Blade, anything. It's simple to use, yeah, sure, I guess. I just can't recommend it over, well, much really anything else. So when it comes to the ultimates, you might be a little surprised to see that the Unmaker is the winner, and you know what? Even if you don't use it much for the weaponry, the simple fact that makes this thing so amazing is the Made to Last perk ability that you get when you start some matches. A 20% passive damage resistance buff is so huge, prevents you from getting a lot of damage, is better mathematically than a 25% health increase or so, give or take, and it's just so good to have. It's a boss killer when you get up close, but you know what? I can't recommend it as the main one. Why? The BFG 9000. I mean, literally, you just plug and play, you shoot across the arena. It's a good get out of jail free card. You get worried, you blast it. You see a boss, you blast it. There's boss strategies you can use with this that are more advanced. There's just so much you can do with it. You get invincibility frames when you're at the charge up, and it's just so easy to use and so user-friendly that yes, the Unmaker, getting up close is amazing, but it does not stand to the BFG. The chainsaw I can't recommend, honestly. Well, you know what? It'd be a good second place, maybe, because you get 6 seconds of invincibility when you're using this. You can click it, get out of the arena. Oh no, I'm cornered. Help, help. Hit the chainsaw, do a lot of damage to people as you go by, or a little bit, have 6 seconds where you do not get hurt, and then boom, you're out somewhere safe and clear. But it's just not the BFG. It doesn't clear the whole dang room. It has a faster charge, both the Unmaker and the chainsaw do, than the BFG. I just can't really recommend it. And Demon's weak to rending. You never see that. Huh. Now we gotta talk about the Crucible because everybody's like, oh, big sword, right? It's gotta have power. Well, you get 5 strikes back and forth down the arena and you end up right where you were at the start. It does okay damage and that's fine, but you don't have any control over it. It's good to get yourself a moment to think if you need it, but it's just, again, it pales in comparison to the room clearing BFG capabilities. Even with a faster recharge, it's just so easy to use. The Crucible, yes, but the BFG is just so much better. There's just no way around it. Acid Spit, man, that is just nice because, look at this, it does damage toxic to enemies. It gets corrosion on them, which weakens their defense, meaning you kill them faster as a new player. Anytime you can take an enemy off the field, that is what you want to do. The time to kill an enemy, whether it takes 2 shots or 1, 2 shots taking twice the time as 1, even if they have 1 health, because you have to do that whole entire shot animation. This thing weakens their defense if it's a boss especially. Those guys can be tanky. You need all the help you can get. The Acid Spit, even at level 1, you want to use it because it is so good. You have the ability, that's the key player, not the damage. It is weakening your opponent's defenses. That makes this thing so awesome. Ice Bomb is nice too because it slows them down, does some decent damage, but just having a slow effect is good to help you get a little in the battlefield, keep everything cool, pun and kind of intended, but just the defense weakening is so much more powerful. But the ice, you never know, if you have a lot of strength and power, you might like it. You really could use it. I know a high level player that likes his. Hey, it's a good little tool, honestly. The Arc Grenade does good damage. It's like 8,000 some with maxed at Epic, and it weakens their attacks, which is really cool. Enemies weak to plasma, because if they can't do as much damage to you, you can survive longer. So if you have a good Arc Grenade, don't sweat it. Use the thing. I don't personally really use it myself. I'd like to try it out a little more, but man, I just have Acid Spit and I can't get away from it. And especially as a new player, you're not going to be maxed clearing out rooms in 2 seconds. You know, having that defense is just so nice. Flame Belch does fire damage, I mean, it's not really that special. It's just Flame Belch, it's just fire. If you have it, use it, go ahead, but it's not going to get the top of my list for me. Sorry. Frag Grenades actually have the highest amount of damage, 5 figures when you get into the Epic Max, but from what I've seen, I've not really been a user of this myself. It lobs your grenade so you can miss. It's just not as consistent as blasting enemies directly with the Acid Spit. It's just not as consistent and value adding as the Acid Spit. And you know what? I gotta go with the acid there. So when it comes to your helmet, you might be noticing I'm using a UAC helmet for here, and you might be noticing this gear right now. I am definitely having, out of all those weapons, your primary is your main thing. You want to have that level to the max if you can. I like having the secondary pushed hard as well, and then the ultimate, I like pushing it very hard. When you get into these more meta builds outside of the beginners, you're probably going to want to go level 1 ultimate just for the ability, but if you're just starting the game, if you're just having fun with it, level this thing up, enjoy the process, worry about the meta stuff later if you want to, and just have fun with it. Leaving this level 1 because, well, you just want the ability, not the damage from it. You got better things to spend your points on, honestly. When we come over to the armor side, like I said, I have the UAC helmet. You get critical chance for this, damage for the gloves after 5 seconds of firing a secondary, and that's precisely why it is not the play. I say it's not the play, with the Exulsion helmet giving guaranteed damage is a good way to go. Now, I prefer UAC and you might too, but if you're just starting out, you don't want to worry about all the more advanced things. I have 5 seconds after I shoot this weapon, calculated aggression, go in, do some damage and back out. If you just want the straight stats, you just want to focus on point A to point B to C, taking the enemies down, get a simple helmet, have the damage right out there. You have tons of options when it comes to your helmet and everything else. The Cultist Gauntlets would pair up well with the Exulsion. They actually have you more attack speed, which is cool. I don't really ever use them myself. The Exulsion Gauntlets give you boss damage. Boss damage is nice, but I would rather have something that helps me out on all the other stages instead of just 4 of them, right? So that's why I use the UAC Gauntlets and helmet, because they pair off really well with each other. One is critical bonus, one is damage, and they just work so nicely. But really, like I say, Demonic Gauntlets, straight up damage. Exulsion Helmet, straight up damage. You cannot go wrong as a beginner with Exulsion Helmet, Demonic Gauntlets, because they will pair up very well together. Like I said, I do UAC. If you want straight up damage, do this configuration. I still recommend the Demonic Chest Plate for this piece of armor because it is damage resistance. And as a beginning player, you want to have all the damage resistance you can, not just melee, because most of the attacks are ranged. It gives you good max health, resistance against damage, and it goes really well with this next piece of equipment that I have. So, look at this here for me. And what makes this chest plate so good is because, let's say we go back to the boots. This puts the whole picture together. The demonic boots give you a ton of health. They give you melee dodge 5%, projectile dodge 5%. So here's what happens. Enemy goes to attack you. Melee or projectile, doesn't matter. Game says, all right, 5% chance. Do we dodge? If we do dodge, great, you take no damage. Awesome. Let's say that their attack gets past that 5% dodge filter. Oh no, they're hitting. Wait, this armor will absorb 4% of that hit. So it's a 2-layer bonus here. You have the boots, which stop the attack with the dodge, and if they don't, the fail-safe is the chest plate having 4% resist. Now, I know there are chest plates that have stagger resistance, this and that and the other. Use them if you want, it's fine, but if you're a beginner, you want all the safeguards and safeties that you can, these 2 pieces of armor will do that for you. When it comes to Slayers, get whatever you can. Classic is probably the safest as he has more health, and he also has an invulnerability that he gets after getting hit sometimes, which is really nice. It's safe. If you can only use a mini Slayer, that's fine too. Gold is really good, I'm finding out, for damage and attack power. The Classic is just the safest there. And when you're in these battles, pick the things that lead to survivability. Do your max health perks. Do your abilities like your spread shot, side shot. Get a little damage bonus too, but focus on the ones that give you glory kills. For example, Glory Kill Rage makes you more powerful, Bloodthirst gives you more health on glory kills, and even the heavy cannon has ones that make it stagger more often. Anything that can give you health, security, and your abilities, max health, glory kills. Get higher health, get that health back, because higher health, higher percentage back from glory kills, higher bonuses in general. You get 25% health from your base with a health bonus, so the more health you get, the more you get from the bonuses, and you stack up that survivability, but you also can't neglect having the damage. This build is the meta in Mighty Doom right now, and anyone can use it, beginner to expert. It's so fun and satisfying, you're going to see why. This is the Glass Cannon Chain Gun build. I'm going to take you through each of these pieces, tell you why I selected it, and then show you all the perks that you need to do to make this thing work. I'm using the chain gun here. Why? It has an extremely high rate of fire, high damage, you can bounce the projectiles around the arena, and it's all together an extreme powerhouse. And it really synergizes well with the Gauss Cannon that'll be coming up next. You got that long range attack. You can have a little shield if you want, but that's not the big point here. You can bounce the projectiles around and do a lot of damage in a little time. Closer you get, the more projectiles hit, so you can go in close, you can back away, high damage. This baby right here is one of the shining stars of this build, the Gauss Cannon. Looking here, a 44 level rare has 16,078 damage. That means when you get those damage boosts and those attack boosts, that's a lot. That's 5 and 10% up off of a gigantic number. This is a true powerhouse. If you're a Glass Cannon build, you need this gun. Remember, Glass Cannon, high damage, low defense. The power, you kill them before they even touch you. The true Slayer Rip and Tear Berserk Rage. Now the power in this, as you'll see in the footage here, and I'll go over when I go over the perks, is not just the laser beam. Yes, but you open up with this here, and it ties into your equipment, and I'll explain all the strategy here in a minute. When you're bouncing shots, when you start that battle out and you're bouncing shots off the walls in the arena, going through different enemies, you literally have a BFG type of gun, almost, not quite, that you can use every 10 seconds. And it synergizes with the gear, I'll tell you in a minute. Gauss Cannon, use it. Far range distance, You can be across the arena and hurt them, just like with the chain gun. It's a ranged hit, but if you need to go up close, you can really deal the pain. Like I said, when we go over the perks, this will all become more clear closer to the end of the video to explain why they work so well together. Okay, you gotta have it, the BFG. You can also use the Unmaker. BFG is better for arenas, Unmaker for bosses. I like it for arenas because you're already doing a ton of damage with bosses anyway with this strategy. This helps you have a safety net to clear, so you can hold on to it in case you need it, or if you just literally enter an arena, you shoot the BFG, and then as soon as that shoots, you tap your Gauss cannon to blast anything that might have survived and nailed you, or just maybe go ahead to get a glory kill just to be safe. Glory kill rage, we'll talk about that in a minute. The point is, the BFG clears an entire room for you, wipes it off the map, just mass damage. This is a glass cannon build. You're meant to inflict the pain. The BFG Big Fun Gun 9000 literally does that. You might want to try the Unmaker as well because you have that 20% passive damage buff that you can get from a perk, and also some weapons have iframe invincibility frames when you fire them, like the SSG meat hook. It seems like the BFG does from testing, and the Unmaker as well, so that protects you when you really need it while dishing out major pain, just like the movie from the 90s. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, the ice here. Now I'm using an ice bomb because it's the epic that I have. You could also try a frag because those are the highest damaging grenades. If you want to, since this is a damage build, you could try an acid grenade because those lower the enemy's defenses, naturally meaning you do more damage. You were literally supposed to wipe the floor with this build. That's the satisfying part of it. But you're going to have to learn how to dodge, and that's why we talk about the classic Slayer. Well, he's very important to this build. I'm going to show you why in just a second, okay? So this, frag, acid, ice, whatever you want to use is fine. Don't stress about this too much. Those are the big three. Your armor matters too. We'll talk about it in a second. Slayer build, I use classic. He was recently fixed. Here is why. Yes, he has a little bit less damage than Crimson. It's true. You don't have the 25% perk when you get low health to deal increased damage. I've heard that's not a lot anyway. That's fine. The beauty of classic Slayer is that you're already low health glass cannon. Having his extra health goes a long way to keeping you alive when you really need it, because you're not going to have a lot of health. And his invulnerability, as soon as he gets hit, he has a little protection bubble around him, and when you're going in even close for these moves, far away, you need that extra protection, that cushion, because like I said, you don't have a lot of it in this build. But if you truly want to have the max output possible, you can try the gold skin. The ability, kills have a chance to recharge secondary weapon, is huge, because what if you shoot a Gauss and then boom, back to back another Gauss? And from what I've been told in the Discord, this thing actually happens often and you actually get to recharge fast. I personally don't have the gold skin, so classic is the next best thing that you would use in that case, but if you do, let me know in the comments how the gold skin works for you in this build. Now, I'm not saying to forego all of this right side decent gear here. You want to have a healthy balance. You don't want to have one helmet, one gauntlet, or one chest, any of that. You need a little bit over here to make up for it, but let me explain to you what's going on with this. The helmet, not actually defense, it gives you more damage. This is the beauty of it right here. I love this. Slig, a really good player, turned me on this idea. The damage is 94 on here, plus 3 on each level. You have the chain gun, right? This is so cool, follow me, it'll blow your mind. You have the chain gun. It shoots many little projectiles at once instead of one big one. So when you go to this helmet, this 94 bonus here, that's applied to each of those chain gun bullets. Now do you see where we're going with this glass cannon build? Instead of having one projectile have this 94 bonus, you have all the little chain guns that are taking help from this helmet and are just completely blasting everything. It's too cool. Now, I'm using a UAC helmet here. I would recommend even demonic because it's more damage, critical, blah, blah, all that. Whatever you want to use is fine. Make sure it's damage. What's interesting about this build, I pulled these from a crate, so I'm using them, and it actually makes this build kind of cool, kind of fun. It makes it a true rip and tear Slayer. Here's why. With my helmet, critical chance 30% for 5 seconds after firing secondary weapon. So, calculated aggression. For the next 5 seconds after I launch the Gauss and blow apart the arena, I have a 30% greater critical hit chance. All those little chain gun bullets, that's good chance for critical, right? Because you're shooting a lot of them. So you go in, 5 seconds, you rip and tear the place apart, whatever's left from your Gauss. Carefully, because you don't want to die. It's a fine line you got to walk here. You got to be really careful with this build. But if that's not enough, we go to our gloves, more damage, multiples with the chain gun. Remember, the chain gun benefits from this glove here. Damage 40% for 5 seconds after firing secondary weapon. So I have 30 and 40% buffs after shooting my clear room Gauss. Just clears the whole room. I go in, do super damage, 40% more criticals, more damage, boom, boom. It literally just clears the enemies. And if you get a glory kill, you grab the glory kill rage and do even more damage on top of it. It's crazy. And on top of that, this is what I love. If you have extended stagger, you have more time to go get those glory kills. If they give you more health back from that perk, the bloodthirst, you get more health back from your GKs. So GKs are a resource on the field. You don't want them to run out, but you want to make use of them. Too good. I'm using the demonic chestplate here. It's got a bunch of health to it, and this is very, very important. Damage resist 4%. You are going to be taking a lot of hits. If you have 4%, that is not a lot sounding, but every hit 4% less, and then your invulnerability from your Slayer suit, great combo. Now, I was actually talking to my friend Goguru, who is a top tier player of this game, and I asked him why not use one with melee resistance. It's 15%, because 15 is more than 4, right? Well, most of your attacks in this game are going to be from range, and you can fight them and counter them back from range or close up if you need, depending on the situation. So having that damage resist for every attack is super nice, because it covers your range and your melee. Most bosses are going to be melee too, or range, I'm sorry, going from a distance. So gotta love that chestplate. The demonic set's really good. Demonic boots, these are so good. I know this is a glass cannon build, but if you look at my screen here, you'll notice I have 30 levels in this. This is the most important because it gives you a ton of health. Like these boots have so much health on them. It's insane. You need that health to survive, but you don't want to go too heavy with it. Melee dodge chance, 5%. Projectile dodge chance, 5%. You can dodge attacks that you clearly need to be very careful with and avoid. Gotta love those boots because they are so useful. Now, for the masteries, we can't really pick what we're doing. The best ones you're going to want: damage to increase by weapons, equipment boost, having more health and damage. Of course, resistances are nice, glory kills healing you are nice, everything is good in that regard. So now I'm going to take you through each of the perks I selected because these are just as important as the build. So we have the classic Slayer tough ability, that just comes with it because we need that extra padding there, but Crimson Slayer will be fine too. We have multi-shot for the Gauss cannon because all of those shots just going around the arena, 1, 2, 3 everywhere, multiple shots from the Gauss, very valuable when you're going for high damage. Lead poisoning, another big one that you want to have. It adds toxic damage and a chance to weaken the enemy defenses to the Gauss. More damage, toxic, just ultimate power. So it's a very good buff to have. It's pretty high on my priority list. Right here, Pierce. This is one of the 2 S tiers. This build, you need this, and Bounce. We'll talk about it in a second. I'll explain all that. Pierces enemies with the projectiles. For the chain gun, for the Gauss, you need it because the Gauss has a different name. You want to go through the enemies as you're going around the arena. You don't just want it to stop at one enemy. You want to hit everyone. Like, make your Gauss like a BFG, and you need to do it with Pierce. Same thing with chain gun. Going through the enemies, crucial. Of course, damage up. You definitely want to have the damage boost as possible. Energy shield, fine. I had the option to get it. It's nice to have because even if you don't fully stand still, what it does is you put that shield out there and it gives you that positioning. So you want to run around that shield, do your thing, hide behind it real quick, go back around it. Enemies aren't always going to be targeting it if you're moving around, so it gives you just an opportunity and positioning to keep yourself safe. Okay, Glory Kill Rage. It's around 20% or so increase from my calculations. Every time you do a GK and heal, you get that burst of power, which, as we talked about before, power, strength, this is the Berserk Rip and Tear, cautiously calculated aggression slayer, and anything for more damage is always appreciated. The damage boon from the Seraphim, yes, this is the biggest boost you can get to your damage. If you see this, take the hit to your defense, just do it, grab that thing there. But be careful, of course. Like I said, Bounce, this is with the chain gun. One of the 2 most important upgrades. I cannot stress how S tier this is, because now not you're only shooting ahead, you're bouncing your shots off of walls and continuing that shot onward, hitting enemies behind cover that you can't see, that they maybe can't see you, and going around the arena to places you can't reach from way back here. And you'll see this used a lot in my run when I grab it. It's so useful. When you pierce through the enemies at the same time, you're bouncing off the wall, hitting an enemy, and taking out the next one. That is insane damage, not just to the main enemy, but everyone else around. The total output of damage really stacks high. Of course, attack speed and damage, you want to level those both up equally. For the 5% minor boost, 10% major is what they give off of your base number. Level them up equally if you can. That is fine there. Magnetic acceleration, shots pierce through additional enemies. You'll see me do this in runs. I'll spawn as soon as with the Gauss open, I'll go to the side, shoot down a whole row of enemies. Just not only does that take down that complete row of enemies there, that opens up a pathway for me to run through if I need. So it not only does damage, takes enemies off the field, it opens up positioning and movement to where I can get out and I'm not just backed away in a little corner. You can be backed in a corner with this build, that's fine, you better know how to dodge, but you shouldn't be. The saving grace is all your damage kills the enemies fast enough to make you safe. Not ideal, so try not to if you can. So after that, critical hit is always good damage because multi-shot. Got another multi-shot, had the option. More shots, it's nice to see your Gauss go boom, boom, boom. Really, it's pretty satisfying to do. Even if you do less damage per shot with some of these multiple things, it still adds up to be more total damage output in the end of it all. Spin fast, yeah, decreases the spin up time to reach max rate of fire. It's nice because that's more bullets, more faster ammo going out to them, and if you have this combined with an upgrade that keeps your accuracy when you're shooting at a distance, that's all the better. More damage, that's the key of this build. You are a glass cannon. You are meant to inflict, rip, and tear pain, even though you're pretty fragile yourself. Okay, so after that we have the Curse, of course, damage boost, and that I can't think of anything else that got left out. If there is anything that is damaging, you want it on your build for sure. By the end of this video, you'll be able to AFK farm in Mighty Doom without touching your phone for Battle Pass tokens and loot for your Slayer. I've even included a low-level example to push the limits in case you don't have a lot of gear to see what's possible. So let me explain what you want to watch out for and how to use this build. First of all, you see I'm standing at the top of the room. It's not that simple. There are a couple problems that can result in the arena, and let me show you what the gear is, how to use it, and why. So I have a heavy cannon, and I want to get the best one that I have. This is a rare level 56 that I used. You can also use a chain gun if you have it. The shield is very nice, but the heavy cannon is just so consistent to shoot across the arena and hit everything and kill it very, very fast. You want to go for max health upgrade perks if you can, because they'll just help you survive longer. Damage boost, bounce is S tier if you can find it on your heavy cannon. It's one of the best. Twin shot, any kind of side spread shot, anything for damage and health. Now, beyond the heavy cannon, I've tried the burst rifle. It's no good. The chain gun is mid tier. Well, what's next? Why do I have level 1 gear here? Well, the super shotgun, we're not going to use it. You can put anything you like in this slot. It's good to have super shotgun in case you want to meat hook to stun lock bosses. If you want to move around a little, up to you. But I just put it here because, yeah, whatever. The Unmaker. This is interesting. You would think you'd want to use a BFG, right? And you saw I just went through the Sentinel and I got some just perks there. If you need to heal, heal there. That's top priority, is having as much health as you can going into each of the next arenas. See, I just completely decimate the Razor. We have the Unmaker because, yes, when you fire it, you get a short invulnerability. You also do it with the chainsaw and the Crucible, but you can sometimes get the Made to Last ability at the start of your battle for the Unmaker, which is a 20% damage buff resistance against you, which is amazing to have. So I didn't actually get it in any of my runs, but that's okay, it's still something. Standing up here at the top, you see the blocks, they matter not to me. I just shoot right through them and I have access. The beautiful thing is if you do have to move, if you feel a little nervous, which you won't have to, you only have to move left and right, horizontal plane. You don't have to go up and around all the enemies. You can run in for the GKs if you want, but as you can see, this is way more than enough. The Slayer suit matters too, we'll get to that in a second. But the Unmaker is important too. I have Acid Spit to reduce the enemy's defense so I can kill them faster. If you have something like the Arc Grenade to weaken their attack, that's fine too. You can use whatever you want, really. Don't stress out about the grenade too much. Ice is fine to slow them down, whatever. Okay, I'm using Classic Slayer. You can use any one of you that you like. I use Mini Slayer level 10 for my low-level attempt, which was a little scary. But I'm using Classic Slayer because he has the most health, and he still gives you a little bit of damage. He has an All-Slayer Damage Resist perk, and he also has this ability of after taking damage, gain immunity for a short duration. And you see that sometimes. I don't know if it hits all the time. If you see a little yellow bubble around your Classic Slayer, that's what it is. It's your immunity right there. So you can see here there's a couple little guns on the top, and in my low-level run, I ran into a problem to where, see, I get spread shot here. The Razor was behind the gun, but I couldn't shoot him, but I kept targeting him. I shot ice bombs over at him, but it wasn't enough. So you want to stay away from the guns, go to the other side of the arena if there's a little bit of blockade. Zombie, no worry there. Okay, so what's up with the right side? This is probably one of the most important things you can do, okay? So first of all, you want to go down here to the bottom right. These are your 3 priorities, your heavy cannon, your chest, and your boots. Let me explain why. Now, if you don't have the same gear that I'm using, that's okay. This is just the most optimal, so that's fine. Just use what you have. Use this if you have it. Demonic Chestplate. Why? Max this out as much as you can next to your boots if they're epic. So get the best bang for your buck. Go one by one on your upgrades if you have to and say, all right, I get a lot of HP for this much money. Do as much as you can. I would have upgraded them more, but I ran out of tokens. You get a huge health boost from your chest plate, and you also have a 4% damage resist. Now, you want to be hit with a lot of ranged attacks, so therefore you want to have that damage resist for all of the attacks, not a melee 15% that another armor gives. This is the best piece to use. Get a bunch of health from it, get damage resist, looking great. Okay, demonic boots. They have a ton of health that they give you, so you definitely want to use that, and a melee and projectile dodge chance to be able to avoid the fire. So you see here, I'm still standing at the top of the room. It is just fine for me right here. There's a lot of leeway that I have with my build. Now this is important. I switched these out and it made about 1,000 damage difference. Exulsion Helmet increases damage. Now what you want to do after you maxed your heavy cannon, that's priority number 1, max your boots and your chest plate as best you can. Then you want to go over to your helmet and your gloves. They get your leftovers spread apart equally because they're about equal upgrades. You want to go as high as you can with Exulsion Helmet because it gives you more damage, as helmets do. They're not defense, they're armor. They're actually offense. But as you see here, we'll get to this in a second, the Prowler just completely gets shredded. Just stand there. All your shots are going to go around the arena. It's fine. If you need to move, you can, but as you see, like, it doesn't really do that much damage to me. The Exulsion Helmet has a 16% damage buff for rare, so I definitely want to have that. Make use of it. So we want to use that one. If you want to use like a UAC helmet, you can. I'll get to that in a second why and explain it to you. Demonic Gauntlets give you 60% extra damage. You want all the damage you can. You can also use attack speed if you have those helmets and the gloves. That's fine too. Either one works. If we go down here, really any helmet works. Critical damage is fine because you'll hit some crits. No worries there. After firing your secondary weapon, so if you want to take the UAC helmet, just shoot off your secondary from time to time to get that boost. Doesn't make you AFK, but that's the only way to get it. Any other helmet, fine. Gloves, fine. Attack speed for Cultist Gauntlets works really well if you have those instead. If you don't, that's okay. Again, UAC Gauntlets, it's a secondary. You know, if you want to fire a secondary, that's fine. It kind of kills the point of being AFK, though. Up to you. That's why Demonic Gauntlets are best in Exulsion Helmet, because they just give you straight up damage. You don't have to do anything to trigger them or toggle them. They're just literally there to give you damage. Now, another thing I really want to point out with this build here is that I'm using my masteries. I can't change them. I can't alter them for the build. I've got some maxed out. I have 52 of them because I'm Slayer level 54 at the time of this recording. Whatever you have, you have. You can't change it, but ideally, you have a lot of bulk up for health. You have, glory kills don't really matter. Damage resistance, ideally you have a high level of that. Damage dealt, any of these are great. Upgrading on a level up, any of these are great. Now, Mancubus, you see here, he goes over pretty quickly and dies out. You can stand right where you are. You can go to the opposite corner if you want, because he doesn't really hit you with this flamethrower if you're far enough away from him. I learned that, which is really pretty cool. But it's a pretty smooth build. Now let's take a look at the low-level Slayers to see what they do, in case you don't have quite the gear that I have here, which is completely an overkill for that matter. It's crazy how well this works. You don't have to, again, you don't have to use this exact same gear I'm using, but this is the optimal gear. If you have a UAC helmet, that's fine. But the problem is that needs your secondary to be able to do extra damage. So if you're going to use a UAC helmet, you need to take some kind of secondary you can fire off from a distance, like I said, the SSG, whatever. This is a problem right here. If you run into this arena, you'll see that I'm soaked in on him on the heavy cannon. I'm sometimes shooting an ice bomb over top to be able to try to get him out. But if I'm AFK, I'm not seeing this. So you might need to step in. If you have a stronger build, you could probably muscle your way through. Honestly, if you see this gun room right here, you should probably go to the bottom where the saws are. There are no types of guns to block your view right there. So slightly different. So this is the point where I say, hey, maybe I should spin it around a little bit, see what's possible when you move around, but I still want to stick to my guns. So the thing you want to do, if you still have to move, you don't go left or right, easy. You don't have to run around the arena, try to dodge like crazy. You only have a horizontal plane that you're working with when you're using this. You only have left and right that you worry about. You don't have to go up and down and around. That simplifies things. You're out of the range of the poison guns there. You only have to worry about moving left and right. If you take a hit, that's okay. If you move a little bit, you're still able to go get the glory kills if you need to. You still have the Unmaker you can use to get yourself out of a sticky situation because it gives you invulnerability while you're firing it. So you do have options, even if you can't go full-on AFK option here. So you want to have fun with a high-level Mighty Doom account, but you don't have the extra money to spend to get there faster. Today I'm going to give you my plan that I would use to build a free-to-play account from scratch to high level without spending a single dime, and I'm going to teach you how to do it too. So take some notes, we're going to dive in, here we go. First off, the most important thing I ask, we need crystals. Those are the premium currency, the most important thing. How do we get them as a free-to-play player? Number one, your dailies. So when we take a look here, there's quite a few different dailies. Let me explain what's important and everything to you. Now, a lot of people say, well, all I need to do is just raid and fight to get these rewards. So that's not true. If you're a free-to-play player, especially if you don't have a lot of time in your hands, you want to do your events. So first of all, the first one we'll start with is this, the daily missions. You do these basic tasks right here. Don't even need to do all of them. You see how many points it gives you on the left and it applies it to the bar? There is a secret reward at the final tier every single day of 15 crystals. So you get all of this stuff, which is several raids worth, and 15 crystals. That's 450 per month if you come back and do your daily every day. That's about a $5 crystal pack, absolutely free, just for freaking playing the game. How cool is that? So I'm going to claim mine right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't take me anywhere to where I need, but that's fine. Seasonal. You will be able to push your battle pass further when you go to the seasonal. Each week they refresh each other, and all this adds to your points and your score. I'll explain farming here in a minute as well. And so especially if you're limited on time and you're just like, I don't have so many raids that I can do a day. You can do the regular ones, sure, but put your focus on events. You only get 2 or 3 a day, but they are much, much better because you get a lot of loot from them and they are shorter. So you have a 20-stage battle, but you get the loot greater than a 40-stage regular. And if you want some of the tokens for the battle pass, this Zombunny Horde gives you 100 per clear, leading for 200, and then you get another 50-ish from here. That's 250 a day on top of the seasonal, on top of the regular raids that you do. You can really beef up your battle pass. I don't buy any extra energy. I use free-to-play default energy, and I'm up at about level 26 on the battle pass now, so it can be done without going up here and buying any energy. A cool tip what you can do as well is if you're going to bed for the night and you have 5 energy left here, go ahead and start a fight and then force quit your app out, and then when you come back in the morning, you'll load up on that fight and you'll have 20 energy that's filled up overnight. You can also do this if you have to take a break midway through a fight and then come back without losing all your progress, because it's valuable time and progress and you want to keep it, right? Next up, the battle pass. Okay. This is important because you look at all these things here, there's so much stuff, and I've actually made a whole list that I put in the description of every single item in the free and the paid battle pass, just to show you what it's worth and how good it is. So for example, you get 4 weapons, 26 discs, like 6-7 keys, crates, skins, plus prestige unlimited rewards. If you are a free player, use your battle pass to your advantage. There's so much stuff to help you progress. Do not sleep on this thing. Every raid you do will help push you further to that goal, especially those event raids that give you so much more. So you combine this with the battle pass to get a ton of loot that you can't normally just get from day-to-day raids. You'll also want to check your mail frequently. The day the update dropped, the game dev sent 100 crystals to everybody. The other day there was a maintenance break, they sent 50. You never know when it's going to pop up, expire, so be sure to check that super fast. Every single day you're going to come to Vega, claim your bonuses. You get boosts for that, and you can also boost them every day as well to get even more loot, like this. You can do it for free, or with crystals, we're going to do free. And you get 6 hours of loot. There's a couple other free things you always want to hit every day as well, which is your free crate right here. And you get some cool stuff, and of course free coins as well. So how are you going to spend this stuff? Now you're thinking, you're looking at this gear and you're like, hey, I want to get rare and epic, and I can't get it as easily by opening these special crates because they take a lot of crystals. Where do I spend my crystals? This is important. Focus on not what you don't have, but on what you do. With this Slayer kit, the Mini Slayer or the Gold are your 2 options for free to play right now. You have no limits as to how you can earn these. You or a paid player all have the same power to earn these skins and suits, with the exception of using energy with crystals to earn them. So you save up 1200 for the Gold Slayer, who's better than Mini in any way, except for the secondary that doesn't really proc. This one actually is really, really good, and even paid players want to use the gold skin. So it just goes to show that if you have the ability to get it just the same as a paid player, try to get that, max that out while working on your weapons. In addition to that, your masteries. You and a paid player both have full access to every single one of these masteries. It doesn't matter, this is not a paid area, so you can focus this as well to get upgrades just as a paid player would. So if you've bought the Golden Slayer, you can always come down to these crates. I am biased to the special crate because it's guaranteed uncommon. I'll show you. You get a 80% chance of uncommon, 15% rare, and 5 epic. I have pulled all of those. You can also go down to the 2410 special crates to get a guaranteed rare in there. However, if you're free to play, that's going to take a long time to save up, and on top of trying to get the gold skin, you get the rare and that's nice, but that's so much time that you're not using this special crate to help farm and push along the way, which farming is super important. We'll talk about that too. Over here on the menu, we have our daily pickup items. Let's pick up today, see what it is. we got 20 tokens here, and that's fine. Every day you come back and you pick this up, that final day has a special key, which is the good stuff. That's what you want. You get weapon keys, equipment, everything along the way, and I have this from gems, but that's okay. You can still get some other things too. Okay, so let's talk builds. What you're going to want to do is when you go to farm, let's say right now Hell on Earth 2 is the level that I am going to work on very soon. I can comfortably farm this one. So what are my options to get the most efficient loot? Well, for your battle pass, what you need to know is that all of the levels generally tend to give you the same amount of tokens. So you can use my neck AFK strat, I'll show you that as well in a moment with a link, or you can choose this farming strat. What I like to do if I'm active and playing and ready to go, I pick the next level down from where I want to start and choose that level. Now, there's several different builds you can use when you're a free-to-play player. You want to use the best weapons that you have. So if you have an uncommon shotgun and a common heavy cannon, you're going to want to lean to that shotgun, but it's okay, it's completely your choice either way. Now, I like to use more of an offensive build. I have several builds on this channel already, and will be more coming, because if I can take all the hits and the heat from the enemies in this level, all I need to do is how much health do I need to survive? What do I need? If I have too much health, it's a little slower, but a little safer. If I go full-on aggressive build like this here, you can see I'm very heavily reliant on the heavy cannon, super shotgun, got a lot of damage coming out here. And again, even if you're free to play, use the best gear you have, you can still make it work. Or you can do the Necrovault AFK strat if you have the gear for it. I have a whole video on that, where you literally just put your phone down, let it fight, walk to the next room, put your phone down, let it fight, walk to the next room. Another thing to consider that you have with the Slayer skins is that this little 1% bonus when you get this guy to level 10, or you get this guy to level 10, you get damage and health that goes across both Slayers, so you can buff yourself up further that way without being a paid player. At the time of this video, the 1% of the mini Slayer is bugged, but it's been reported, so hopefully it's fixed soon. Don't forget that you can dismantle and take apart your weapons to try other builds, that way you're not excess farming. Whenever I would be doing this, I would be only putting items and my silver and coins and resources into the stuff that I'm actually using up here, and dismantling everything down here so it's not wasting any more time that I don't need, and I have a whole guide on that as well. Keep an eye out for fusing. It takes 3 commons to make an uncommon, and so on. If you want your own rare, you're going to need 9 commons, and epic is 27 commons, which you can go to your weapon crate here and spend 80 to get a weapon or 260 to get equipment. Well, why wouldn't you just use the weapon? I mean, hey, crystals are tough to come by, right? You're a free player, you can't buy them. Well, the thing about the weapon crate is, if you need a weapon, maybe go ahead and do it, but look at this. You only get 90% chance at a common and 10 at an uncommon. So you can get about 3 weapon crates for the price of a special, but you're also going to want to have armor as well in your build, so you don't want to neglect that too. I personally go with the specials because we get keys and things for it. I don't go equipment crate. You don't need that. Don't worry about it. Go with at least a special. This is one of the best builds for early and mid or even late game Mighty Doom. I did it, and if I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing. And you're also going to see footage on the side of this build in action in early game. So your primary weapon should be the combat shotgun. Now when you're early on in the game, you probably don't have a bunch of fancy stuff to use, right? You probably have the heavy cannon, the shotgun. So use the shotgun and get up close to your enemies. This build that we're working off is going to be up close, personal, really nasty Slayer. You want to use the shotgun because its damage is different than the heavy cannon, sure, but if you get up close, get all those pellets to connect, you do a ton of pain to them. And this ties in with what I'm going to show you in a second on how to use this to your advantage. So once you go with the shotgun, this is your primary that's up close. We know this much, and learning how to use it. We'll go over the upgrades you need to do in a minute as well. Your next weapon you're going to use for here is the super shotgun. Now, this is because you have, it's just so good, so much up close damage, so many pellets. You have the meat hook, which pulls you to the enemy, obviously, which is not just for high damage, but for moving and navigation around the arena. Too good. On a boss fight, it will interrupt the boss if they're doing a really nasty attack, meat hook to them, and you'll interrupt them as well. It's just so good in that regard. Now, if you don't have the super shotgun, you're going to want to use the rocket launcher or the Gauss. I went rocket launcher, Gauss, SSG for my build. Now, obviously, you want to go up to the SSG. In fact, I'm using my rare super shotgun over my epic ballista because it's just that good. Now, your next weapon for your super weapon, I use the BFG 9000. We have a few different options here. You're probably going to start off with the chainsaw, which is fine. I used it for a while. You basically activate your chainsaw, you run around invulnerable, and you just saw everything up. After the chainsaw, I moved to the crucible because you have 6 slices around the arena. Keeps you invulnerable, gets you out of sticky situations, really powerful. Unmaker, I've tried it. It's supposed to be really good for bosses. For me, it just didn't click very well. I think it's just skill issue, honestly. I need to probably just practice it more. But the BFG is basically a room clear. It eliminates a whole stage for you, and it's really good in some boss fights too. Especially, I won't spoiler any, but Necrovol's level 15 boss fight. Really good for that. Of course, if you don't have the BFG, like I said, do the Chainsaw. If you don't have the Chainsaw, do the Crucible after you graduate from Chainsaw. Then go to BFG or Unmaker is my choice. For here, use the best thing you have. Ice Bomb is nice because it slows them down, giving you more options here. But you have a lot of other different choices that you can do. If we take a look at what I've got here, we'll start off. We have the Flame Belch, which does fire damage. Honestly, if I were you, the Acid is good because it weakens their defense. So you're out there and you're like, hey, I'm doing a ton of damage to these enemies with my up-close shotgun, super shotgun hits. Well, why don't I weaken their defense on top of that to do even more damage? That's what I'm going to go with right there. We also have the Arc, which weakens their attacks, which is nice. That's fine. Does less damage, keeps you alive longer. Honestly, I would go with the Acid Spit. I really would. This is a Frag Grenade, does explosive damage, which is fine too. But honestly, like I said, Ice is your way to go there. Okay, so what about when we take a look at your Slayers? We'll talk about that in a second. Let's do that now. You start off with the Mini Slayer. That's fine. You know, use it if you want to. Crimson is, from what I hear, it's okay. Whenever you're under 25% health, you do more damage. I've heard it's not too much more damage, so I haven't bought Crimson Slayer. I did get Classic because it's got the most health boost out of all of them. And it also, after taking damage, gain immunity for a short duration. It's not, can't really tell a difference, but hey, it's a good perk. You have it. You get a lot of health. You get some good damage. All Slayers damage resist too, because whatever you get on this suit actually transfers to all the other suits. Like for example, if you get Mini Slayer 10, all your Slayers get 1% max health. Crimson Slayer, all Slayers get 1% damage. There is no level 80 yet, so this just has to do for now, and then, that's fine. Whatever, that works. Oh, the Gold Slayer. I haven't gotten him, but he's the only one that you don't have to pay real money for. Save up 1,200 gems. Kills have a chance to recharge your secondary weapon. That's cool, especially if you have the super shotgun. It's nice. But, the actually main Slayer, chance to instantly kill enemies. I don't know the chance of it, but not bad. When we come over to here, I'm using a Demonic Helmet. Increases damage and critical chance against demons. That's good. You're doing more damage, which means you're killing them faster. And if you have a lot of health, too, that will help keep you alive, obviously. It ups your critical chance to do critical hits, more damage, more power, all those pellets from the shotgun. You gotta go with the critical hits. Just putting out damage is so important in this game, because when you get to a bullet sponge for a boss, you're gonna have a hard time if you just do like 3 damage a hit. And if you're over here doing high damage, high crits, can't go wrong. That's damage for everything, by the way, for your whole suit, whereas this says, just for this, I need a little bit of clarification on that. Gauntlets, Demonic Gauntlets just increases damage. That's really good because not only are you increasing damage on your main attack, one of the perks of the Gauntlet, and it gets better with each tier, is you do even more. Like, I do 16% more damage just because of this here. Now, some other options include extra damage to bosses, but I'm just going to take it all for every enemy, right? Can't go wrong with that, can you? Demonic Chestplate increases max health and damage resistance against all attacks. I mean, it's giving you more health, which is amazing, and it's giving you damage resist against any type of attack out there. 4%. Now, one of my other chest plates, when I was taking a look at that, had actual melee resistance, and when you look at it, it's massive. Now, that's 4% after firing the secondary weapon. We don't want that. Stagger chance is really good to heal, and we don't want that as well. One of them has the boss, but you know what? Melee damage resist. Most of the projectiles in this game are ranged that they're going to hit you by, so I'm looking at this like 15% melee resist is really good because that's a lot more than 4%. But when most of your hits, even though you're close up and personal with the enemies, are going to be ranged, it doesn't seem to be so good now, does it? Okay, the Demonic Chestplate, like I just said, we went over that. And the boots are my epic. I have 2 epics. You get max health, which is awesome. Melee and projectile dodge chance to help you dodge. So not only are you beefing your health up more with and damage resist with the chestplate, you're doing extra damage on top with the helmet, more critical with that. The demonic set is just so dang powerful in doing more damage and keeping you alive longer. How can you say no? Especially since this is some of the stuff you can get early game and you do just fine with it. When we go to the masteries, this is random, so you're just going to get what you're going to get. That's fine, do what you can with what you have and just make it work. Now, when it comes to perks in battle, this is interesting. Of course, max health is a good one, but you want the damage boost for sure. If you can get something like multi-shot for your SSG, do that. Get more pellets out there, which is nice. I really, with this build, like the glory kill choices because you're already getting up close and personal with these enemies. Perfect time to GK them, right? If you're already up right in their face, instant GK. You can have longer extended stagger, which is amazing because you want to have time to get to that enemy over in the field. You can have more damage and speed after a GK. I love that one. You can have more health from glory kills. You can have explosive glory kills, which means just enemies blow up out by you. The point is, unless you do a sentinel in between the matches, and for an event that we've just played tonight, there were no sentinels. Glory killing is your only method of getting health. You're going to be in and out with that shotgun and SSG. You really need that health to keep yourself alive and pushing. If you get more damage from it, that's even all the better. When you look at this build and you can see the gameplay, this is mid-game gameplay, so it's nothing fancy, nothing advanced. This is from one of the Exultia levels, mid-through. You see how I'm going in close, meat hooking in as soon as I go. As soon as the enemies spawn in, I go to the spawn, camp them right in front of them, blast them with the SSG. If it's a big wave, you know, a big spawn, because I know it's a heavy demon, or if it's a smaller, I'll probably just use regular shotgun. And nowadays I use different weapons. I use right now I'm using the chain gun, but when you're starting out and you don't have a lot, you got to make the best use of it. Heavy cannon's nice because when you have all like spread shot, side shot, twin shot, all the upgrades and all the power, all the bullets go everywhere, which is great. And of course, twin shot for the heavy cannon does more damage. It's about 12% more, but I found that it's about 540 damage when I tested it for a single shot and 308 for a double, so you're getting about 12% up. No matter which way you cut it, you have to get up close and personal with this build, so you may as well have the glory kills to back yourself up. This is the order you should upgrade your Mighty Doom stuff in so you can do the best you can when you're playing. I'll be explaining the difference between farm and push, and I'm going to start it off with something controversial, your ultimate weapon. So this is a BFG, the Unmaker, Chainsaw, Crucible, whatever. Is it critical? Is it high? Is it medium? Or is it low priority? Your ultimate, you'd think probably would be somewhere around high, right? Because it's so damaging, even critical, it's so powerful that you can wipe out whole arenas with it. Actually, no, it is not medium, it is even low. This is because when you're farming or pushing, the meta seems to be pushing in the direction that you're not focusing on the ultimates, which you use 4 to 6-ish times a battle, especially the BFG. You could have those points allocated so much differently to your primary, your secondary, or some of your armor. We'll explain all that in a second, but those huge bursts are nice, but when you're farming or pushing and you're limited on your resources, you need to allocate those points elsewhere, and for that reason, the BFG and Ultimate gets a low placement. So let's go to the primary. This is your main gun. Will it be low because you want to focus on other stuff, medium, high, or critical? Well, this is your main damage dealer and something that you need to rely on literally every single room for the vast majority of the time that you're using it, as you see in my video on the right. So for that reason, we're going to put the primary as critical because you use it every room. It's your main source of damage. You have to upgrade it so much along the way. You can't go wrong. Critical is the way for your primary weapon. Alright, so let's take a look at the secondary. Of course, the Gauss is the way to go, for me at least. This is something that is low. I have seen people place it on low as level 1 as they farm because they use their points elsewhere and they don't really use the secondary much. Maybe to trigger their 5-second UAC armor bonus for their perks that way. Maybe just they don't want to use it much, maybe just for the meat hook or the utility behind it. Me personally, when I'm farming, my recommendation always goes to critical. I run the UAC build with the Gold Slayer, so I blast off that Gauss cannon for some big damage, which carries over to my primary having super big damage as well, and having that Gauss blast is just so nice to have against bosses. So high damaging. It's almost 112,000 base damage for an epic that I saw from Reign of Warfare. I'm still working on mine. For that reason, critical is for your secondary. Your main 2 damage dealers, you gotta give them the points that they know, love, and deserve. This next one is a but. There is a catch to this one. That is your equipment launcher. So this thing, the points you put in, fires off at a certain time whenever you use it. Each one has a little bit of a different time that they shoot off with. Acid launcher is really good, some of the others as well. Flame Belch is looking like it's decent here. When I was talking to Slig about this, he said that he was getting as much as a Gauss out of it per tick, which is really nice. Now this, you could say is critical because it's a damage dealer, or maybe high because it's not like as heavy as your primary and your secondary. But then again, hey, we put ultimate down in low, so it's hard to tell what's going to happen, right? I'm going to say the equipment launcher goes in low, but if you want to get some extra damage in with something that shoots frequently, you got the coins, the points, all that stuff, you're comfortable with it, you want to do it for fun, Go ahead and put some more into it if you want. I personally haven't messed with it that much. I keep it low, keep it level 1. Remember, if it's low priority, keep it level 1 so you get the benefit of wearing the equipment. You just don't stash all your points into it at the same time. Okay, so how are we going to upgrade our helmet and gauntlets? These say farm and push because the helmet, all the helmets, and all the gauntlets, everything have the same stats to them. The only difference is the passive ability, whether it's damage, critical, 5 seconds after shooting, all that is the same. So if you have it as level 1, you get those benefits. Now, we differentiate between farming and pushing with the armor because you want to build it differently. So let's say your helmet and gauntlets for farming. I have a picture of the helmet here. It's interchangeable for gauntlets, either way, just to make sure you know. When you're farming, your goal is to deal massive damage quickly so you can push through the level, get through all of your energy as quickly, efficiently, and safely as possible. So for that reason, you want high damage, but you also don't want to die too fast. A little bit of safety there, so we'll get to that in a second. So a helmet does damage, and that's great because you want that. When you're farming, well, this helmet or the gauntlets gives damage to every single thing that you use, especially valuable for chain guns because they have so many projectiles. Each of those projectiles is affected by the helmet as opposed to a Gauss cannon or a rocket launcher, which is a one and done, except for a couple of the upgrades, of course. So when you're farming, that extra damage, is it critical? Is it high? Is it medium? Or is it low? Well, for farming, I am placing it in, just kidding, it's in high. Extra damage, super nice to have to push through faster, harder, better, faster, stronger to get through those arenas. Now, what about the helmet and gauntlets for pushing? Now, this is a bit of a tricky one because the helmet and gauntlets don't give you that much return on investment compared to some of the other things. Like if you have the choice between your primary weapon and your helmet, do your primary weapon, do your secondary, give those all the love you can, and then anything extra gets put over to the helmet and the gauntlets because they do add up. As armor gets stronger, it scales very rapidly. So if you have an epic helmet and rare gauntlets, put literally everything you can into the helmet because having an 80 epic and a 1 rare or a 60 rare and a 1 uncommon is way better than trying to bring up that uncommon or the lower tier. It sounds crazy, but every single time I've been able to help someone with their build and I find this error that we can fix, it helps them out. They either get more stats or they get a lot of their coins back to reallocate elsewhere if that is the fit for what they're looking for. Or if they just want to keep those stats there because they don't have enough tokens, that's fine too. It's whichever way you want. Coins, tokens, your pick. But when you're pushing, you need more survivability than when you have farming. Yes, the damage is good, but when the enemies hit hard, you need to survive. So for that reason, we're putting it in medium. It's important. You judge it accordingly. If you're like, hey, these enemies are too much of bullet sponges, I need to put a little more offense in, well then, you do that and you figure out what you need. But of course, if you're an epic dodger, then yeah, you can probably go a little bit less on the health department. So that's why I put it in medium, because it's more case dependent than farming. Farming, you have the goal, you know what you want. Pushing, you do too, but you have to kind of back and forth a little bit, see what you like. It's not as important to medium for me. Chest and boots for farming. Okay, this is important here because this is your health factor. Now remember I just told you about that when you're farming, you want to get high damage, fast, efficiently, move through the arena. Theoretically, you'd think to put 1 into your chest and your boots so you get all that damage, all the coins, maybe put the extras in the chest and the boots, doesn't really matter, right? Well, while I have seen success with glass cannon builds, which are high damage but also high damage received, dealt and received, really, I've had a lot of success when farming Hell on Earth 2, the final chapter, by having a little bit of cushion in there. That allows me to get into the crowd of enemies, get very close for the DPS with my heavy cannon or across the arena, whatever, and not have to worry about dying as easily. So having that extra health buffer does go a long way. Even though your focus should be damaged, you don't want to also die in one hit or progress more slowly because you're scared of dying, and then you watch an ad that adds more time to it, and all of that. So for that reason, again, it is case-by-case basis. I'm going to put it as mid for farm, and you see the roles have reversed here, so I'm curious to see what the pushing armor will do here for health. Now, when you're pushing with this, it's very different. You are going against high damaging enemies who are also bullet sponges. It is a tug of war, a balance, but if I had to choose, I would have a high leveled primary and secondary, and then I would put a lot of points into this, but for where? What is the importance here? It is critical, yes. If you're going into Hell on Earth 2 with 4,000 to 5,000 health, you're done in like 2 hits. It is massive. It is critically tough. These epic boots and chests give you 16,000-ish health when they're fully maxed by themselves. That keeps you alive so much better. And when you're fighting these tough enemies and bosses that take a long time to kill, you have human error, you have your nerves, you have all this stuff messing you up. You need to get that fight done quickly with damage, but also survive with the health. That is why they're critical, because you're taking heavy hits and you need that help. Now the Mini Slayer. Now the thing about the Mini Slayer is his upgrades tend to be a little weaker than his weapon and armor counterparts. What I mean by that, so if you're looking at it, you're like, I have 5,000 coins for my Slayer, I have 5,000 for my boots, I don't know which way to go. Well, it looks like the Slayer doesn't give as many good stat options as the boots do. Well, I'll go with the boots. Well, the Slayer gives health and damage, and at level 10 unlocks an ability that goes across all Slayers, whether that's more health, more damage, no matter what, and at level 80 he unlocks a second whenever that level comes out. So you have to be able to balance everything. It's really a balancing act, understanding like, hey, my Slayer's lagging behind, I need to pick him back up. Well, now my equipment's lagging behind too, that you want to be able to know where to upgrade and what matters, so you kind of edge your epic, your rare, a little more than everything else because it's that much better. You don't want to lag the Slayer behind. He is a good upgrade source. He is another piece of your equipment. So for that reason, he's not low, he's not critical, he's either high or medium. I'm going with high, because he is important, you need him, but just use accordingly as you get the Argent, and just spend your silver and your coins as you need. Now the masteries, these you cannot choose what you're going to get, so that's what makes it a little tricky. Everybody doesn't like to get Invigorating Boon that heals you on going to a new level, but the difference that people miss is that that is a healing when you get a new ability in a level, meaning that you get 10% at max, so 10 upgrades in a level, 10% health is a full heal in the level. Well, of course, it skews earlier. If you get those upgrades in the earlier levels, you're not going to need it as much, but you can't pick your mastery. Nonetheless, they're still very important to do because they stack up very, very highly. And you know what? I was going to put this as high originally, maybe critical. You know, we're going to go high for now. I'm going to put it, I literally cannot decide. I'm going to need your help with this in the comments below. Let's just leave it as critical against my first judgment of high, and let me know what you think. How did I get lucky enough to find a 129,044 health Mighty Doom build? I did no exploits. This is all legit. So as you see, 129,044. I swear this is crazy. My first upgrade was BFF from the BFG. You get that at the start. Then I had, count them with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 max health increases. What this means to build a 129,000 HP build is 8 of my 11 abilities at the top were health bonuses. I only used 2 of the reroll discs to be able to try another chance. Imagine if I had more. Only 3 of my upgrades were not health related, and to top it off, the BFF one from the BFG gives you 20% of your base. These give you 25. My base health is around 45k, so I get 10,000 per, so you could technically build something up to 150,000 as the current max of the game. So let me show you what this looks like in the armor screen here. So as you see tonight, we have a brand new Demonic Chestplate 80 Epic and then a Boots 80 Epic as well, leading me to 43.4 base XP. Now, whenever the Mini Slayer is fixed, it will be 43.4 in the game. Right now it's 43. So you can, once this bug is fixed, if you get extremely lucky, you can build 150,000. I didn't get that lucky, only this time here. Subscribe for more builds and reviews and guides to help you get better at this game, and come to our Discord for free tips and help. I'm Austin, thank you for watching.